Hey guys, welcome back to another weekend review, and this review is even more special because I'm uploading it on a leap year, because today is February 9th, 2020, and I just got back from seeing a horror film, and not just any horror film. It's a loose remake of The Invisible Man. Now, I want to be able to establish this real quick. I'm actually a huge fan of the classic Universal monsters, as you can clearly see by this huge box set that I have here of like 30 movies from that time period. I'm a huge fan of the classic Universal monsters, and I always want to be able to see them come back in some way or another. They tried to do it with the Tom Cruise Mummy and Dracula Untold, and failed miserably both times. So they decided that, you know what, maybe we should just go back to making standalone projects. And hey, we hadn't gotten an Invisible Man adaptation in God knows how long. And I think the last major Hollywood production that they did of the Invisible Man, loosely anyways, was Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon. So, and I always thought the Invisible Man was always an interesting concept. The fact that he could literally be right behind you and you wouldn't even be able to see him. But hey, that's enough about these. But what is the plot of the actual movie about? Well, here is what the plot is about. Cecilia, played by Elizabeth Moss, is in an abusive relationship with a brilliant inventor by the name of Adrian Griffin. And one night, Cecilia ends up leaving him. But unfortunately, things end up taking a turn in which Adrian ends up killing himself. And Cecilia has a huge sum of money. But strange occurrences begin to happen in which Cecilia begins to doubt the fact that Adrian is actually dead, and that he may have actually figured out a way how to make himself invisible. This is a great aspect to take the story. While it is loosely based off of the original story, and I would honestly love to see another major Hollywood production based off the actual story from H.G. Wells, this is a really good angle to take in the fact that you have a woman who is recovering from an abusive relationship with a controlling and powerful individual. And not only this, but when she's finally let go of him, she begins to suspect the fact that maybe he might still be in her life, but everybody else doesn't know. That's a great angle to take this story at, and I think that the way that they're able to execute it is really well done. This is probably one of the best horror remakes that has ever been made. Albeit, even though it's a loose remake, it is still a really good film in and of its own right. Elizabeth Moss is absolutely phenomenal as Cecilia. You're really able to understand her pain, and you really get where she's coming from, and the fact that, she actually might, she's trying to be able to stop Adrian from doing whatever the heck he's doing, but nobody believes her, and you can tell and you can feel the pain in her voice and in her eyes and her body movements when she's trying to be able to explain to them what is going on, but they just don't believe her. And then, of course, there's, of course, the visuals themselves. How do they hold up? Surprisingly enough, when the Invisible Man is invisible, it actually is really well done. Now, this is done in a collaboration with Blumhouse, and Blumhouse films have always been known to have very low budgets. And supposedly the budget for this film was around $7 million. And for $7 million, they were able to do a lot with that money, because they used that money wisely, because this was really well done. I also want to mention the fact that this was also from the same writer and director that did Upgrade back in 2018. And Upgrade was a great film if you haven't seen it. But I honestly do think the fact that what he did here, I think it's great. I think this might actually be one of his best films, because he also ended up working on the Saw and Insidious movies with his friend James Wan, which is also really cool to know. But and the thing is, too, this is only his third feature film that he's ever directed, and for his third movie, he did a really phenomenal job. Now, did I have any criticisms with the movie? I did, but if I mention them, it would get into spoiler territory, and I don't want to do that, because I legitimately want you guys to go see this movie. I think it is really good. Oh, and in case you guys are wondering right now why aren't the videos looking the way it does, I wanted to be able to capture the sort of look as the classic Universal Monsters movies like The Invisible Man, so that's why this video was in black and white, because I also want to be able to make it stand out more amongst the usual videos too, so there's also that reason. But yeah, overall, I think the fact that The Invisible Man is a really solid adaptation of the original story, even though it has almost nothing to do with the original story, aside from the fact that there is a man who becomes invisible. I think it is a really well. If it was an original idea, if it stood on its own, if it wasn't even connected to the Invisible Man, it would have been just as good. But because it is connected to the Invisible Man, there's that. Elizabeth Moss did an incredible job as Cecilia. In the supporting cast too. I can't remember their names right now, but they did a really good job too. And I'm really looking forward to see what the future of the Universal Monsters hold, because this is supposed to be the first film in a series of like new standalone projects that Universal's doing with the Universal Monsters. Like, there's supposed to be a movie called Dark Army that's going to be done by Paul Feig. And Paul Feig has actually said that he's a huge fan of the original monster movies, and Bride of Frankenstein will be a huge influence on him, which is really cool. There's also the fact that there's going to be a Renfield movie based upon Dracula's henchmen. It's going to be directed by Dexter Fletcher, and it's going to be produced by Robert Kirkman of The Walking Dead fame. James Wan is producing a Frankenstein remake. Elizabeth Banks, the Elizabeth Banks behind stuff like Pitch Perfect, she did the Charlie's Angels movie not too long ago. She's doing a reboot of The Invisible Woman, unrelated to this movie, but still, it's unrelated, but still. She will be directing, starring, producing in the movie. I think she's also might be writing, but then again, that might be stretching a bit too much. But I know that she will be heavily involved creatively with the production of this movie. There's also going to be a musical called The Monster Mash. And they're also currently working on a Bride of Frankenstein remake that they were planning on doing for a while, but, Now, it's being produced by Amy Pascal, who has been known for producing other stuff that you may know, like Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, Into the Spider-Verse. She also produced Venom. She's also going to be producing Venom 2, the upcoming Spider-Man Far From Home sequel, Spider-Verse 2, and a couple of other productions. And David Coep, who's actually written a lot of movies over the years, like Jurassic Park, Lost World, Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. He's also supposed to be writing Indy 5. He will also be writing the script for that movie as well. But yeah, I'm very much intrigued to see what Universal has in store for the Universal Monsters now, because this is a good step in the next direction. In fact, here's something cool. If any of the executives from Universal happen to be watching this video, here's an idea. If you're going to continue to be able to make the Universal Monsters in a similar fashion to what you did here, make the next one about the Wolfman. Because originally with the Wolfman, they were going to make it so that way it was ambiguous as to whether or not you didn't know he was transforming into the wolf or not. But they added the part in which they actually show him as the Wolfman so it would have more marquee value. But I legitimately do think the fact that they could take the Wolfman and also make it in the same vein as this. Have it be about a man who he gets bit by an animal and he ends up killing it, but he's not entirely too sure what the animal was or why it instantly died like that. And then slowly but surely have these strange coincidences begin happening around the town, or around the city, and he's wondering, he's coming back there's these weird tracings that, maybe he might have done it, but then again, he might not have. It's a really interesting idea, and the thing is, too, when you see the people actually get attacked by the wolf, you don't actually see the wolf. It's all in your imagination. It's all subjective. It's in the eye of the beholder, which I actually think would actually be a really cool idea. But yeah, overall, I'm going to give The Invisible Man a solid 9 out of 10. It is a really good horror film. Highly recommend it. And if you have any free time, I do also highly recommend checking out the classic Universal Monster movies. They're actually really well done productions that lay the groundwork for modern day horror movies. They're a lot different than modern day horror films, obviously, as they were made in the 30s and all the way up to the 50s. But I do think the fact that these are worth your time and you should check them out. They're really well done productions, really well made. But yeah. So that concludes my review for The Invisible Man. Tune in next time for when I do my review of Onward, the latest film from Pixar with Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. So look forward to that. And as always, stay gold.